Happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. This is Disconnect to Connect, one-word conversations. And this is the part of the show. You know what? I probably need to stop saying that and just kind of like say the sponsor. But the sponsor is IamWilliamBrown.com, a place where you can find items and have a conversation with me about being yourself and living your life. One of the things that I spotlight on the show is the U cards that help you set intentions, and there's also a game associated with the U cards. So the intentions for this conversation is I am purpose. I am purpose is the I am card. You are seen is the you are card, and the quote card is be you, the world will adjust. So I think that's the second time this week. This is only the second day this week. I'm like letting you guys know that I've been doing some recordings for the show, so it probably came up during there. But this is the time that it came up, so I will embrace that. So with that in mind, I will introduce our word for today, and our word for today is smart. Smart. When this word came up for me and I wrote it down, I was like, that's will be interesting how that shows up and within the conversation. But here we are, and so I will invite my friend in, and we will have a conversation.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is the time in the show where I invite my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable to them.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Lana Dingwall. I do business coaching and consulting. I work primarily with people who are socially conscious and spiritually conscious people who are really looking to make a big impact, not only in their own personal lives through the growth of their business, but actually making an impact in the world as well. And well, I know William as Batman. So right. if I call you Batman, or if I start to say Batman, please note I personally am referring to William.
Right.
That's how
it's like.
It's his professional name.
Right. So no, that's great. I definitely appreciate it. You know, every once in a while Batman comes up, and and it's fun, and I love it. So with that in mind, it's like I'm hiding. It's like, and then there's this other thing. It's like, to see a black man blush, right? It's like, why am I blushing, right? Right? It's like, yeah, I'm Batman. Yeah, own it, right? So, yes. How does the word smart land for you?
It's really funny that the word smart came up as my word for a multitude of reasons. But to set the stage, I'll start with a story.
Okay.
When I was in grade 2, probably 2 or 3, we had to do this exercise in class where you would write down, like, my friends like me because, and you'd answer all these other questions. And then you'd pass the paper to your friends and they'd say, like, I like Lana because, or I like whoever because. And my parents still have this piece of paper, but it says all over the paper, like, I like Lana because she's so smart. I like Lana because she's so smart. We're in grade 2 as well, so our vocabulary for describing people is very limited.
Right.
And I had to summarize, like, people like me because, based on the things. And I wrote, people like me because I'm so smart. Right. I forgot the R in smart. So the running joke in my family is I'm so smart. So I thought that it was very ironic.
That is funny. And I don't know if I told you how I picked the words. I just the words come up, I put them in Trello, and then when I put the marketing piece together, I look at the picture, I look at the word, I look at the picture again, and then I look at the word. Whatever word pops out, I put it near your picture. And the fact that smart came out, it is just great, So it's like, so Lana smart, right?
Yeah.
So really, so for me, um, it was really something that I felt I wanted to, um, I guess, to live up to in order to kind of prove people that I was, because there was a part of me that felt that I wasn't smart, because I have a learning disability, and I show up as, a dyslexic, especially when I'm stressed out about things. And so letters and numbers kind of do like crazy things. And it's like, all right, get it back together. But so I was always trying to like prove to myself and prove to other people that I was smart. And then it became this big label for me. And the saying that, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you need to change rooms. And I was like, oh crap, it's like, it's like people looked at me as being smart, and people want to leave, But so it was really something that, now I'm just embracing being smart, are smart and not smart, and just showing up how I show up, and that's okay.
Yeah. And so this is obviously not a coincidence that this is our word.
Wow.
I also, if my story didn't maybe set the stage,
Right.
I'm also extremely dyslexic.
Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't get diagnosed until I was 20. And so the word smart for me, similar to you, also has this heavy attachment to trying to be worthy or good enough.
Yes. Wow.
And in my family dynamic, I'm the oldest, and I have two younger brothers who both were in gifted programs in school. Particularly my one brother, him and I are only a grade apart. So there would actually be classes where we'd be in the same class if the school had like a split, 1, 2, 2, 3.
Right.
And I'm the older sibling. And here I have this younger sibling who is extremely gifted and by every definition is labeled as very smart.
Right.
Smart.
Right.
And I actually was in remedial classes for things like English, which I only speak English. So being in a class when you have like a gifted brother, and then not even getting to do class with English class, particularly with people of your own age, I would often be in classes where it would be like new immigrant families who are learning English as their second language.
Right.
And then me.
Right. Wow.
So it really did create this stigma around not being intelligent. And things like math. I also, no one wants me to do math calculations. Always really struggled with math, really struggled with reading and writing. And I feel very fortunate that I had parents that, even though we didn't know I had a learning disability, because I only got diagnosed in actually university because my rugby coach thought that I had ADD. And turns out I have a better attention span than the average person.
Wow.
It's just that I can understand things faster, so I stopped paying attention by choice.
Right. It's like, all right, I got it.
Exactly. But then they were like, side note, you are extremely dyslexic, so intensely that we are very shocked that it took you 20 years to get diagnosed. But it's just how the kind of like the testing systems worked. I guess I kind of fell through the cracks. But and that's why, again, in picking this word, it seemed so funny for me, someone who grew up largely not thinking that they were intelligent by educational standards.
Wow.
But I still knew that I was smart, even if I couldn't spell the word smart and would spell it. And it sort of like taught me, I think from a young age, that other people's opinions of you don't always line up with how you feel about yourself. And at some point you have to let go of other people's narratives and embrace the narrative that you want, which was, I knew that I was intelligent. I knew that I was capable. I just had to work a lot harder to do things. But I was willing to do that. And I don't think that I felt that actually made me dumb or less intelligent.
Right.
If anything, it just made me a harder worker.
Right. No, I totally get that. Thanks for sharing that in that connection. And it's like blowing my mind now that it's like, oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
We're like there, but I went undiagnosed. I think I was in high school. I'm probably 11th grade.
Mm.
But it took a while because, as you can tell, I wear glasses. So I couldn't see, but I didn't tell anybody I couldn't see, right? Right? Because, as a younger kid, it was like, okay, I guess everybody sees this way, right? It's like everybody sees things blurry and backwards, right? And we just figured it out. And so, falling through the cracks and all that kind of stuff, got glasses. Oh, okay. Now it's like, okay, now it's like backwards. It's all kind of crazy and all that other kind of stuff. And I realized how much I was overcompensating
Mm.
and how many that extra that you were talking about, that doing more that the extra work of what I felt was just getting to the baseline, look to other people that, wow, you're just, you're really on it. You're really, you have this work ethic and all this other kind of stuff. And you're always studying and you're always doing these things. And it was like, dude, if I didn't do that, I would have no freaking idea what the hell was going on here, type of thing. But I couldn't say that because I was smart, right? Because people saw me as smart, and I was like, all right, sure, we'll go with that. And so yeah, it is really really interesting how for me, when I saw this word and I said, okay, let's unpack this word, it was like, dude, are you gonna like admit that you don't feel smart? Are you really don't, are you have to work really hard? Or, it's like, hey, the shine is going to come off of this, thing. And, people will be looking at you sideways because of that. Are you okay with that? That's the internal conversations that I was what I was having before this conversation.
Well, thank you too for sharing that. And I would say leaning into the more difficult part of it. It's so funny how, like, I think the narrative of being smart, it traps us because to be smart sometimes feels like we're being asked to be perfect, especially when you think of in an academic setting.
Right.
You're the straight A student, and to get a B or an A minus is the absolute end of the world. And it really conditions us that perfection is really what we should be pursuing, versus sometimes allowing ourselves to we don't need to always get A pluses, particularly if it's in subjects that we don't really enjoy. And then in subjects that we enjoy more, like, we can push ourselves. And I think that part of the reason why the being smart narrative is a trap for not only perfection, but it's also a trap, I think, in keeping us in our zone of excellence versus our zone of genius, as Gay Hendricks would say. Because we love to be told that we're smart. We love to be told that we're good at something. And the fear of entering into a space where maybe that won't be as prevalent, even though that space feels more in alignment with us, we stay doing things that we're good at because we're smart, and we want that kind of validation or that, I guess, identity. And that's something, where I am thankful of I'm also an eternal optimist. So for me,
also similar, right?
Yeah, I'm a 7 ENFP. So I think positivity like beams out of me. But for the narrative around being smart, I think that that's something I'm so thankful for that I had when I was younger, because I do also know myself enough to know that if I had been diagnosed earlier in life, I would have used that as a reason not to push myself. I think I would have used it as a crutch. I would have been like, oh, well, I'm dyslexic. Whereas it became like this weird, it was like a route trauma or pain, a pain point, but it also became this root pain point where this beautiful seed was planted, and that beautiful seed actually blossomed into how I kind of operate in the world now. But I think back to being younger, and I'm in my early 30s, and I might get some messages for this one, but I've never read a Harry Potter book in my life.
What?
I know, I've never read a Harry Potter book in my life, and I'm in my early 30s, and we read Harry Potter books in my classes because they were coming out like as I was in school, and people are always so shocked at it. But for me, Harry Potter books are a constant reminder that I was actually incapable of reading the books. That's why I didn't read the books. I didn't read the books because I wasn't interested in them. I literally could not read the books.
Right.
Dense, and they had so many words in them that I couldn't comprehend or pronounce, and it took me so long to read that I like gave up on it. And it's so interesting, how a lot of the times with what you're saying, do I really want to tell people this? I do find people sometimes are surprised when I tell them, yeah, I've never read a Harry Potter book, but it's not because I think I'm cool. I've never read a Harry Potter book because I literally couldn't read the book.
Right. It's no, I totally get it. And I was like, it's confession time for dyslexia.
Yes.
No, there's a thing that I remember because I didn't want to have that label. I just rejected it. I acted as if I didn't have it, and like struggled through it, and kind of like, are you having trouble? No, I'm not having trouble. I don't, it's everything's fine. And it's just kind of just go from there. But, I was a theater major, and I basically, I had a hard time. I got basically cast in a Shakespeare show that I dropped out because I just couldn't get it. I was like, I'm an actor. I need to, do Shakespeare, and I just could not get it, and I could not admit to people around me that, the reason why I dropped out is because I can't get this. I can't remember these lines. I can't connect to this. And it's like, oh, you can do it, all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, I can't. And it really caused me to just kind of, one, question if I really was an actor and all that other kind of stuff, and just kind of find myself somewhere else. But I haven't admitted that, ever. Everybody thought that I was just this rebel, kid that, I'm not going to do Shakespeare, principal or something. I don't know what the hell it was, when you're young and, and take a stand for something. But, I just kind of like, what, I'm just no longer a theater major. And I just, just realized and didn't have the conversation enough with, the director and the department head to say, hey, this is what's going on. This is why I believe right now I can't be in the show. I'm sure they would possibly help me or kind of figure out the way to kind of do it. But I would have had to admit that I wasn't smart enough to do it. And I wasn't going to do that. That just wasn't going to happen at 19 years old for me. And it's like, I don't want to say I regret that, but it's like I recognize how that showed up for me. And even though that there were some times where, in my community, the label of smart was like, it's like a curse word. Oh, there's that smart kid, you think you're so smart type of thing. It's like, dude, now it's like, I'm trying to make it a good thing. You're making it a bad thing. Right. It's like, I can't win here, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And I think too, right. It goes back to even in that narrative, and thank you for sharing that as well. Cause that would be, I'm like thinking about 19-year-old William, and that would have been very hard, especially when you feel like you do have to uphold this image of who people think you are.
Right.
but then there's this thing you really want to do. And a lot of the times we give up the thing we really want to do because having to confront the image of how other people view us and kind of shatter that image can feel scarier. And
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think especially in the space of being smart, and again, like that whole connection to perfectionism and the whole, like, I've got this, I can do it narrative, is it does put us in a space where we feel like we're not allowed to ask for support
Right.
in different ways and advocate for ourselves. And because with learning disabilities, it's really about actually learning to advocate for yourself versus feeling ashamed that you can't do something. And that took me like some time to realize.
Right.
It's like, oh, learning disability doesn't mean that I can't do this. It just means that how I do it is going to be different than how you do it. And so I need to advocate for myself and support myself by getting whatever tools or resources I need to do the task. Like even now, I run like a successful business that I really enjoy, and I laugh. I still have to send, when I do quotes, I have to send them to my very intelligent brother. I have to send the quotes to my brother to edit them, because without fail, and one time I didn't, and I totally missed a word on the quote, because my brain just skips it every time I read it. I ask for support. So instead of saying, oh, I'm not going to articulate myself through words in my business because it's something I struggle with, I just say, I'm just going to have people edit my work for me. And that actually makes me smarter in my mind.
Right.
Because I'm finding a solution to a problem and I'm not letting something hold me back.
Right.
But that narrative can go the opposite way. That narrative could say, who am I to run a business? I can't even post a quote without needing someone to edit it. I'm so dumb. And it really is sometimes about, changing that narrative we have and finding a way to support ourselves. And we're not supposed to be good at everything. We're just supposed to be good at certain things. And then other people are good at their things. And then we just come together.
Right. It's funny. There's two areas that come up for me is, I've been, posting most of my posts on, on Facebook, go through my editor, my wife, right. And there are some times when, I post too early in the morning and I feel led to kind of hit send. And I felt like I checked it again. It's what I want. And I send it out and she wakes up an hour later and it's like, oh, typo, right? It's like, what, type of thing. But it was, so for that, admitting that most of my posts go through the editing, right? Of just looking for, because I skip words. It's when I'm reading it, I said it, and it's, and I wrote it, but it's not there, right? It's like, I don't know why it's not there right now. But, and it's also coming up within this show that it's like, do you really want people to see this, how your brain works and doesn't work, right? Within a conversation. And it's like, wow, let's just go with that and see. But it's really been great. But there are some times when I watch, the replay and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. It's like there's nobody around. But it is really, the more that I look for areas that I need help and recognize that things don't have to be perfect to get the message across, that's where smart comes up.
Yeah.
That's where, and it's not this perfection thing that I'm trying to live up to, or trying to be wise, or trying to be something, but to just be, and then be able to acknowledge where I am and where I'm not in it.
Yeah. Well, because what's your quote for today that in the card you pulled?
I am purpose. You are seen, and be you, the world will adjust.
That's how I think it is with anything, right? Be you and the world will adjust. A lot of
Right,
the times we're just so afraid of being seen, the other word you had
right,
in there,
right,
being seen for what we feel makes us inferior or less than. But in so
right,
many ways, when other people see us as that full version of us, they find it endearing. They feel like they have permission to also let their guard down and show up as they are.
right,
And yeah, again, I just feel like sometimes we just really want to uphold this image. And
right,
it's so exhausting trying to
right,
uphold an image where it's honestly just easier to just show up as you, let your
right,
freak flag fly in whatever way that is means to you,
right,
and embrace it. And if you embrace it boldly and powerfully and radically, it doesn't matter if other people judge you, because then they kind of just end up looking like the jerk,
right,
or
right.
if you looking like the kid with the dunce hat. And yeah, even I do a podcast regularly,
Oh,
and I laugh. People, and it sort of becomes this joke. I have people write into me telling me all the time how I'm mispronouncing words or
right,
using them out of context, but they're laughing because on the podcast I'll say, I have no idea if I used the right word there, or I don't know if this is how you pronounce the word, but this is how I'm going to say it, or I don't
right,
know if this is what the word means, but to me this is what it means. And
right,
I do it in a way where I address the fact that I know I could be wrong,
right,
but I'm doing it in a way where I'm almost, it's like humble, and I'm in on the joke. And
right,
I'm saying to everyone as well, which is what people also write to me. I'm trying to tell people, like, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have a certain level of articulation. You don't have to sound a certain way in order to be good enough to have a podcast, or to
right,
be good enough to run a business, or to be good enough to go after your business dreams, because of what I do with business coaching.
right,
And I find the more that I show up as me, like
right,
actual me, not persona Lana, but
right,
actual Lana, the more I'm able to give everyone around me permission to do the same. And they know that it's safe. They know it's safe if they say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, or do something that's not smart, make a dumb comment, because they know I'm just going to laugh about it because it's part of being human,
right.
versus, oh, that's like one checkbox in the you're not perfect category, and you only have 3 before you get knocked off your pedestal.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, I totally get it. I am a person that makes up words many, many times that I think it's like, that is a word, right? No, that's not a word, right? It's like, I've heard that somewhere. It must have been just in my head or something,
Yes.
or something like that. But yeah, it is really, there was a quote that I wrote down, that I was sitting with for a couple days, and it was uh, don't try, something to the effect of, don't try to be your best self.
Mm.
Consider that being yourself is the best,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's for me really, embracing what you said. It's just show up, and that is the best, right? That
Mm-hmm.
is when you show up as yourself. That's the best. Anything less than that is not your best. And I think really, um, embracing this, what I call an actionable awareness of self, to just recognize that there is still a part of myself that I don't understand, appreciate, or love, um, and aware of. But what I am aware of, I'm going to show up as that,
Mm.
and I'm going to stay in action with that. and I am going to see how far this gets me, because there is this desire to just be in my life now, instead of, because there's so much a part of my life that was, after I do this or when this happens, then, right? And that way of living for me was not living. It was just kind of, once I get enough money, once I, do whatever, it was just really getting to a place where it wasn't smart for me. It kind of made sense, but I wasn't showing up as smart because of the expectations of other people, and trying to live up to that standard or live up to something that I felt that really there was no way, but there was no other choice. So so just really embracing, and that's why I kind of love the, I am my labels and I'm not my labels at the same time, is that I can really, it's like I'm smart and I'm not smart. So that gives me room, right? There's movement in that. So there are some, I think I posted something. It's like, I'm a smart person that I do dumb things, right? And it's like, it's okay, right? I'm still smart, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of, embrace that and just go with it.
Yeah. And that makes you human. And I think the idea with smart is that our society, at least in a North American context, we've created it in a way where somehow it's measurable. And because it's measurable, it also creates this level of hierarchy. So you're viewed as less important if you fall lower on the scale of what is classified as smart.
Right.
Which also is very, well, all the things. It's very capitalist. It's very colonial. It's very white supremacist. It's very patriarchal. It, like, this notion that we could measure something,
right,
like being smart, because in reality, intelligence is totally reflective on what situation you're in. So I joke all the time that in our world right now, I have purpose and I'm considered to be smart through what I do, like with public speaking and coaching and all this kind of stuff. And I always joke, I'm like, but in a zombie apocalypse, like, I'm not, I don't really know where I'll just keep everyone cool and calm and having fun.
Right.
But it's, and I often think about my, like, as an example, like my cousin, she's an organic farmer. And I think about how she is so intelligent in like ways that I cannot even begin to comprehend, like the systems that she creates, like through farming and everything that she does. It is mind blowing to me. But people consider her work to be like very, she was like a labor job. And I always think, I'm like, do you know how intelligent you have to be to run a farm? And she built the farm, like literally built the farm herself, like all of the systems. Wow. And I'm like, she is so intelligent. But because our society also measures intelligence with economic output, even though obviously we need food to live, it's not considered as not viable. It's not considered as important as, say, like a corporate job. So if you work a high-end CEO corporate job, you must be really, really smart. But if you run a farm, you must be like, you're a hard worker. Right. And again, it comes like, that's why concepts like smart are and can be problematic and can trap us, because it does create this sense of hierarchy of, I'm better than you because I'm smarter than you, which in reality is not the way that we should measure human worth at all. I don't think you can measure human worth. I think we're just inherently worthy. But it can be this word too. And that's why we demand so much perfection from ourselves, because, oh, if I'm smart, if people think that I'm smart, then I'm worthy, then I'm enough, then I'm recognized as important. And
Right.
that's what I'm actually seeking in life. So I'll give up the part that I really want to play in a play,
Right.
because I don't want people to think that I'm less than if they find out that I can't read the part, or I'm just going to pretend I don't like Harry Potter.
Right.
I don't want to have to acknowledge that, like, I can't read the book.
Right.
And it creates this weird thing too, where we like shame ourselves, and we spend so much time and energy like wanting to be better or wanting to be worthy when we're already worthy. And so it can be complicated, to say the
Right.
least.
Absolutely. It's kind of, I tell few people that most of the books that I read, quote unquote, air quotes, right, are through Audible. And I, a big, I listened to them a couple times, relatively quickly, but it was like, if I listened to a book and got some information and wisdom and used it, did I really read it? Right. So, and so do I, so it's like, there was a part of me that was like, it's like less than, because I'm listening to all these books instead of reading them. It's like, it's not that I can't read them. Some of the books that I read, that I'm reading or listening to, are very heady, right? And so, but it just, in some cases, if I read every book that I wanted to read and not have Audible, I would still be on book one, right? There would be like, it would take so much time for me to process and move through it. And there is, something that happens in my house that my wife doesn't like, but she doesn't know about anymore. That because I would get like a hard copy and an Audible. So it's like, I'm looking at it and I'm listening to it at the same time, and I'm going through it. She didn't know that I had the Audible, but I'm like, she just knows that I have the book. And it's like, okay, you have too many books. And then it was like, I put it on Kindle, right? And it's like, oh, I only have it on Kindle. And it's like, so I have all these books on Kindle and all that other kind of stuff. But it was getting to the point that it wasn't that how I was getting smart or how I was getting information. It was, am I getting it an acceptable way, right? Where people can appreciate it. And so really, I recognize by what you were saying that me not telling people most of the books that I read, um, I do through Audible, was me almost kind of shaming myself and kind of thinking that I was less than because I wasn't reading it. Right. I wasn't, I didn't buy the book and had the hardcover and kind of mark it up and all that other kind of stuff. And it's really interesting that in some cases, I'm still that 19-year-old kid hiding, the way that I help myself to get information or to kind of do things.
Yeah.
Wow.
And thank you for sharing that. Thank you. And it's funny, because in that situation, the intention behind reading is to absorb information,
Right.
to learn. When you're listening to Audible, it's the same thing. You're absorbing information to learn. So it's like the process in which the information is entering your brain is slightly different. Like comparison would be when you write. A lot of people prefer to type things out versus write, because when you type things out, you can reorganize the sentence structure afterwards. It's really easy to edit. That's the reason why we type things on a computer too over a typewriter. And from handwriting to the typewriter, that was for efficiency purposes. From the typewriter to the computer, also for efficiency reasons. So it's, when you look at listening to an audiobook, it's the same thing. You're just finding a more efficient way for you to learn for you.
Right.
And the important thing is that you're learning.
Right.
And a lot of people get stuck. So they think, I can't read. so I'm not going to read. And so in my family, I was the first person in my family to go to post-secondary education. And my parents, both of them for sure, have learning disability, like undiagnosed learning disabilities.
Right.
And my dad, it was very interesting. He hated reading. He hated school. He jokes that he actually, I think, took 7 years or something to finish high school. He quit a few times and then went back.
Wow.
But he didn't really read when we were younger. Like I never saw my dad with a book until probably, closer to my late teens, going into university. And what it was is he realized he doesn't like reading unless it's a history book. If it is a history book, he cannot put it down.
Wow.
And that's something that studies show that people because we're pretty sure he has dyslexia too. With people who are dyslexic, we tend to lean towards reading nonfiction over fiction. And there's just something about it that makes it easier for us to read. So I read all the time, but I exclusively read nonfiction. Like I think I've probably read maybe 5 fiction books in my life.
Right. Me too.
You know, and even
3, right?
even in school, I just found those creative ways to not have to read the book, but still do all the assignments.
Right.
And a lot of it is really just learning what makes sense for you. Mm-hmm. How can you do something that you know is good for you, but in a way that is an alignment for you and makes you feel good, versus shaming ourselves because how we do it doesn't seem to be normal the way other people do it. But in reality, a lot of people, before you express that you listen to it via Audible and look at it reading wise, they could have also thought, well, nobody learns that way. It's just me. And then we shame ourselves, when in reality, a lot of us have alternative ways of learning. We're just too ashamed to express them. But the more we talk about them, the more we give other people permission to find how they learn or how they do things.
Right. No, I definitely appreciate it. That the more that we embrace our smart, right? However it shows up, right? Then it doesn't matter how people see it. How it's just, and I think that is, a soapbox, that I have, and I'll try not to get too high on it, but is that we are losing our intellectual curiosity. Mm-hmm. There was this people are just saying things are just happening, and people are just accepting it, and it's just like, dude, think about it. What's kind of look into this, read about, just try to do that. And I think that's a way that we're missing our smart, because there is so much information that, I don't want to say we've shamed ourselves and not how to process it. Right. But, and I don't know if that's the educational system or anything like that, but it's just like, this is what's said, you get it or you don't. That's it. And if you don't get it, you're not smart. If you get it, you're smart, right? And it's so much more than that. And so yeah, I think we can talk about this for hours, or there's a number of things that are bubbling up for me. It's like a part of my brain is like, hey, I want to be a part of this conversation. It's like, no. You had your chance, right? But is there any last thing that you want to say about SMART, or that you really want people to embrace and kind of see how it's landing for them?
I think the last thing that I would say would be like a perspective shift or a reminder that Albert Einstein, arguably one of the greatest inventors in the world, was deemed unintelligent by his teachers. And it was him kind of recognizing that, well, no, I'm not dumb. I just think differently or do differently. And the perspective or the seed that I'd want to plant would be, if you ever find yourself in that space where you're really questioning your intelligence or your ability to do something because you feel like you're not smart enough for whatever the area or zone is, it's taking a step back and maybe asking yourself, is that just other people's standards? Is that just a box that's been created that you're trying to force yourself into? And how can you hold space for the idea that you are highly intelligent, highly capable, and very much able to do the thing you want to do? You just might have to do it differently. And how doing it differently is not only beneficial for you, but it gives other people permission to do it differently too, because most of us are just trying to conform because that's all we know. And the more that we embrace our brilliance in whatever way that is, the more beautiful and empowered the world becomes.
Wow. No, I get that, and I appreciate that. And even I don't want to put it in my category of simple but not easy, but that's how it's feeling. It's like, that's so simple, but it's not easy, right? Right. So I'm just gonna take it on. It's simple. Let's just do that, right? Right. Let's just do that. We're just going to take that and do that. Thank you very much for being in this conversation.
Oh, thank you as well.
I will say our goodbyes from the green room if you can stay, but this has been great.
Yes. Thank you for having me. And thank you everyone for watching.
All right. Oh, wow. I was going to say, I'm smart and you're smart too, right? Every once in a while, my Mr. Rogers experience comes up. It's like I'm embodying on Mr. Rogers. I just want to encourage you that we're all smart in our own ways, and we need each other to help us in our smartness, and recognizing that the interdependence. I think it's come up in a couple of conversations that I've had, that the more that we kind of embrace what we have and we don't have, it helps us get access to things that we want. I don't know, it made more sense in my head. I hope you followed that. But I hope this conversation brought value to you, and because I really did. And so I invite you, if you want to have a conversation like this for yourself, maybe it's about being smart or not being smart, or just other ways that you're showing up, go to iamwilliambrown.com and sign up for a complimentary conversation coaching session with me, so you can find out ways to be yourself and to live your life. The world wants you, the world needs you, and the world is waiting for you. So go be you. Have a great rest of your day.